Joyous rising, family. Good morning, grand rising, great rising, happy Wellness Wednesday. Welcome. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt on the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. It is Wednesday, March the 27th, 2024, and the time is 1:07 p.m. So, welcome. We have the amazing, magnificent master metaphysician. You see all those M's? None other than the great Dr. Tony Vortex. He is a healer, a minister, a counselor, a shaman, an herbalist. My goodness, what isn't he? An engineer. He is the man who studied under the late, great Dr. Delbert Blair, who also was a master metaphysician. He has been here on our show many times to help heal us mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and even financially. So, family, without any further ado, we welcome the amazing Dr. Tony Vortex. Hi, Tony. It's good to
And
see you here today.
it's
How
good
are
to be
you?
here. I'm well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Our family's checking in. They're so happy to see you, Tony.
Likewise, I'm happy to be here with you all because I think today, amongst many other topics we talked about in
Mhm.
conversations, I think this conversation today is going to change a lot of lives.
Mm.
Uh, it's going to be just that powerful. At least I think so anyway. So you all can let me know once we get through here.
Okay, so before we start, Tony, you come from the Meta Center in Chicago, correct?
Correct.
Correct. And you do a lot of services. You do some counseling. What else? You provide what herbs. You provide different technologies to scan our bodies to help detect any ailments. And you and your team come together and do what we call a multidisciplinary and treatment team meeting, where you discuss the things that you see when they take these tests, excuse me, or go through these technologies, and you provide a way or a plan for them to address those ailments. Any more you want to say about the Meta Center before you go on?
Well, we are a science educational based institution, right? So
Okay.
everything is kind of centered around that. Okay, we're always about learning, experimenting, and so on and so forth. Like a lot of the new
Okay.
experiments we're doing now deals with bringing one into a really deep state of relaxation, but deeper
Mm,
than what most people experience within their typical lifetime, right? And not only that, it allows one to have OBEs, which is outer body experiences, and so on and so
mm,
forth. So pretty much almost like having a psychedelic experience
mm.
without ingesting those psychedelics. Okay, so that's kind of what we're on now, experiment going deeper and deeper into the mind. And
Okay.
so, of course, we'll talk about that in time as more and more people uh, bring forth results in that. So.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And quickly before we go on, I just want to show everybody what your website looks like because I'm a big fan of the Meta Center. I've been following you all since about 2008, 2009. So I'm a big fan and I use the products. Here people can see this is your website, meta uh-oh,
Oh,
.com. Is everything okay?
yep, yep, everything's fine.
Okay. Excuse me, metacenterchicago.com. Here you have all types of services. You have your new arrivals, teas, herbs, seeds, diodes for electromagnetic protection, monoatomics. I'm a huge fan of monoatomic gold, which is actually the manna that fell from high that the Hebrews ate in the wilderness, and it sustained them for many years. It also increases your psychedelic ability, helps you dream well, gives you high energy. I'm a big fan of the monoatomics. I took the monoatomics and the colloidals, like your colloidal copper, gold, silver, palladium, platinum, during the shutdown to meet the needs or to address the sickness and the virus, the viruses, because it addresses them on a contact and it completely attacks them. So those are some of your products that I've taken. I have magnets. I have a bracelet that I got from you, a copper magnet, because I know they address joint pain. You have fashion, and you sent me a cap with that. I think it deals with magnetic frequencies in the air to try to help help my brain not to receive those energies. So I'm just so grateful for all that you do. You have services where people can consult about astrology, wellness, their life, their life path, excuse me, their career, so many other things, trainings and specials. So I just wanted to say that before we got into the podcast, Tony.
Excellent. I do appreciate that.
Yes, and if anybody's interested in those projects or any things that Tony provides for our family, please go to the Meta Center and order those products whenever you are able, and make sure you use the discount code Dr. Kia 2024. So, Tony, you've given me so many products. I have to say, my favorite is the lavender honey. I don't know, something about that just, kind of made me feel like a little juicy all over, get me excited. Really, I don't know, it kind of get energized me. That and the monoatomic gold. But we're going to push the products aside and we're going to talk about the topic for today, which is the power of words. What do you want to say about the power of words, Dr. Tony Vortex?
Okay, so what I'm going to tell you here is some things we've been working on behind the scenes for
Okay.
about 10 years now. All right.
Okay.
And we've been doing social experiments where those people who came to superhuman classes, if they're in the audience, they'll know 100% some of the things that I'm talking about, because in these social experiments, it showed the power of words and how important they are, where they got some benefits of it, which we'll get into later. But so there is it was a doctor. He believe he's still alive now. His name was Dr. Masaru Emoto. Okay,
Mm,
and his book, for example, is The Hidden Messages in Water. And what this was his research dealt with the experiments with the effect of words, music, and even photos on water.
mm,
Okay, and with those experiments that he did, you were like, for example, like in our theme image there, could you show actually one of Dr. Emoto's the water images, which shows
mhm.
like hate and so forth?
Sure. Okay, let me see. You sent me three. I'll start with this one. Is that one of them? No, that's the positive one, right? Not this one, right?
Uh, that one, yeah, that one's okay. That one's
Okay.
okay. So, one moment here. Okay, so for example, uh, in him saying, for example, thank you to water, what you see there in the thank you is the crystalline structure that the water took on just because he kept saying thank you to it. Okay.
Mm,
In wisdom, in truth, eternal. Okay. But also, as you see there, there is an image where
mm,
it says, you fool. So he is saying hateful rhetoric toward the water, and it created very distorted or ugly crystalline structures.
mm.
Okay. Now, this is going to go deep because let me change something here on my end. Uh, so, all right, one moment here.
How's the
All
screen
right.
looking now, Tony?
Okay, so the screen looks fine now.
Okay.
Okay, so this is extremely important, right? So he showed that water can indeed factually and actually be affected by just saying words to it, just showing photos to it, just playing certain types of music. Now this is monumental, right? Because one thing is that even though as a scientist, I may, based on my observations, based on my experiments, based on my spiritual self, I may say certain things may be a certain way, right? But without the experimentation to show you, then you have to go off of what I say, right? And that could be a good thing or that could be a very bad thing, depending upon who the person is and what their intentions are. Right. So that's why scientists, being scientists, experimenting and truly observing is extremely important, because you can actually show bona fide factual results that then it does not rely on the person's a person to dictate to you what things may be. So
Okay.
in him showing this, this has ramifications in many areas of our life.
Mm,
Okay. So
yeah.
for example, our bodies are made up of supposedly 60% or so water. Okay. And because it's made up of 60% or so water, if water can be affected by, again, photos, by the words we speak, by the music we listen to, Okay, that means
Mhm.
that our body, made up of 60% or so water, can also be dramatically affected by photos, what we
Mm.
hear, okay, in the music we listen to.
Okay.
And instead of, for example, if we're looking at this image here on the screen, if within my body I want the images, I want the crystalline structures of thank you. I want the crystalline structures of wisdom and truth and eternal. Those are the ones I want, for example, right? I
Yes.
don't want the crystalline structures of fool,
Mm.
okay, or evil. I don't want those types of crystalline structures. Okay, one leads to health, one leads to death. Okay,
Mm.
this is the deeper meaning behind the scripture verse, you shall live or die by the tongue.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, because you are literally speaking. Not only even certain words have certain profane things that we don't want to hear just in general. They give off a certain energetic form which our ears don't want to hear, and that's kind of showing you internally what goes against your, let's say, your internal vortex. Okay, but in saying that, again, it goes deeper, okay, because really it's changing the crystalline structure of what your internal self may actually be, and that's what you're feeling. That I don't like that. That's actually where it's coming from.
Mm.
Okay, so then it gets to uh, then it gets into, for example, can words hurt? Okay,
Mhm.
can it actually hurt? Now, what we tell children, okay, as at least in this current system in the Western world, we taught them that words do not hurt and they
Yes.
shouldn't react to when someone says something hurtful or
Mhm.
hateful. But
Mhm.
then again, based on this actual research, this factual and actual research by Dr. Emoto, is that actually true? Words can actually hurt.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so now let's get into like the legal sense of this. Okay, in the legal world, you may or can be held accountable because of your words, right? So
Right.
let's give a fictional scenario here.
Okay.
Okay, if someone is in a vulnerable state, and let's say they're in a vulnerable state where they're about to cause massive harm to themselves, right?
Yes.
And let's say that someone comes along and uh, says, "Do it." Okay,
Mhm.
just kept telling them, encourage, even though this person does not know them at all, they don't know them personally whatsoever. Okay,
Mhm.
but they kept encouraging them to do it in that vulnerable state. Well, guess what? That person who encouraged it may end up being held liable criminally or civilly. Okay, because of that. Okay, now
Mhm.
if words in itself really don't mean anything, if words don't hurt, then why would I be criminally or potentially civilly held accountable for those words? So we
Right.
can't, so it's one or the other here. We can't have both here, and there's more evidence to all of this mattering than not. Okay,
Absolutely.
so another example, just so that we could all be on the same page here, is that this deals with people who have a hard time seeing their reflection. Okay,
Mm.
so these types of people who have a hard time seeing their reflection, if you say anything other than, uh, and just so you know, Kia, when you just changed it, it went blurry again. Just so you know.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
But these types of people, when you uh, when if you were to tell them anything other than what they feel or are projecting outwardly, it can lead to them getting extremely aggressive or potentially violent. So, because of your words, even though we can say in this sense that you're giving 100% constructive criticism, okay, that you're saying in the simplest form, one plus one is two, and in saying one plus one is two, this will lead to that person being a better version of themselves.
Mhm.
Even though that's the case, the words that you're saying go against, again because they have a hard time self-reflecting, it goes against what their current crystalline structure is, and in
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
these types tend to become, again, very aggressive or potentially violent. So for example, so in this sense, what I noticed that a lot of harm stems from, we can start with two very extremely simple, affirmations to self. Okay.
Mhm.
And so, for example, for women, one of
Mhm.
the affirmations that tend to help women more is them saying that they are beautiful. Okay, you are beautiful, and
Yeah.
saying, I am looking in the mirror saying, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Uh, again, this is not out of ego. See, we live in a time of massive ego, right? And
Yeah.
so some would take that and then take it into the stratosphere, right? Into space, right? Okay, this is about just building up the internal vortex with positive affirmations, which can lead to, it could start to change the crystalline structure within oneself that can lead to, if one is balanced, it could
Mhm.
lead to having positive results. Okay. When it comes to the men, for example, saying you are strong, right? So looking in the mirror saying that again, I am strong, I am strong, I am strong, right? And so in doing this without ego can lead to a stronger fortitude for what is lacking within men. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's very simple examples for women to use, for men to use, and so forth. And so, in that, many years ago in the superhuman classes, as I mentioned, we got into social experiments about, like, I just created like words, random words, and that didn't mean anything per se, or were speaking language in a way that is not typical. So, like speaking in a broken way, right? Just
Yeah.
to see if this can be pushed out into the masses socially and see if it makes change. And of course, those who came to superhuman classes know exactly what I'm speaking of. All right. And so it showed the power of words and how those words can change the reality around us, which led to people getting like very specific mantras. And mantras and affirmations are a bit different. Affirmations are more
Mhm.
so for, let's say, uh, for positive reinforcement.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Where mantras are more so for focal points. Okay.
Mhm.
Whether it be you are giving off a tone vocally. Okay. Whether it be words, whether it be even some form of talisman. Okay. And you're focusing on that
Mhm.
to get into typically a more meditative state. Okay. So that's
Mhm.
more of what
Okay.
mantras are for. Okay.
Okay.
So in doing this, it's led to people literally changing their life for the better. Okay, where some people went from, let's just say, went from a regular person, let's say, to a superhero. Okay, where even some of these people are celebrities on TV and everything now, right? Just based on the mantras and constant reinforcement of those mantras in their day to day life. All right,
Okay.
so now, reverting back to Dr. Emoto, right, in his experiments, right,
Okay.
we have to be extremely careful of what we say to others. See, more than likely, more times than not, most of us should be quiet. Most of us shouldn't say anything. Okay.
Yes. The
It-
scripture says, "Study to be quiet."
there it is, right?
Yes.
So most people, because of social media and so on and so forth, are just saying just so much, even just to keep up with just the latest thing, right? And
Yeah.
they're forcing themselves to have conversation. Everyone's forcing themselves to talk in
Mhm.
many cases because the silence is chaotic. Okay.
Mhm.
And so that nothingness makes them afraid. It makes them extremely uncomfortable to be just with their thoughts. So literally, because of the power of words, if you go to an advanced society, you're
Mhm.
not going to see those people in that advanced society just speaking just leisurely. They're not going to do that, okay? Because everything that's said actually means something and it could change the reality around us. Now, what does that lead to? In a society where most people only speak when there's something of importance to say, it leads to a society that literally words can move mountains, okay? Because
Wow.
when they do speak, it literally changes the reality around them because their words are so thought filled.
Mm.
So now this gets into currently in our reality when it comes to, let's say, music, right? Let's take rap music for example. Even though there's other types of music that are extremely foul as well.
Mhm.
If what is being said is true, It's either true or it's not. Do words mean something, and can words affect our environments? It's either true or not. Okay. Obviously, because of Dr. Emoto, he has shown factual evidence to it being true. Okay. Now, if this is true, and not only the words that we speak outwardly from ourselves can change the world around us, it can change a child, for example, calling them brilliant versus calling them a fool can
Mhm.
lead to lifelong triumphs or consequences.
Yes.
Okay. But also in that, in us listening is what we bring within ourselves. So let's say, taking again rap music, for example, and hearing
Mm.
words that are extremely destructive, that are extremely violent, even though the song may have an excellent beat to it, right? And see, that's there to entrance us, right? It entrances
Yes.
us in
Yes.
that rhythm, right? Which
Mhm.
allows then you to let down your guard, because these are weaponized creations. So that
Mhm.
is there to, so you let down your guard. And once you let down your guard, these types of thought forms can easily penetrate your internal vortex much easier.
Okay.
Okay. So can rap music, can music, people say, especially in online forums and things of this nature, music can't change a culture. Oh, music most definitely can. Most
Absolutely.
based on Dr. Emoto's, again, factual evidence, not just what we feel, not just what even the ancients know, everything else. Even though all that's the case, you see evidence to the fact that it actually can. So when you're listening to, like, a few days ago, just as a fun experiment, right?
Mhm.
Of course, I'm not going to say these artists' names because these artists are extremely foul. Okay,
Mhm.
but what's going around the airwaves is specific music that deals with, again, it's extremely foul. So,
Mhm.
but it has a very catchy beat, right?
Mhm.
So what I did was I just took a verse, a very small verse of this, and I sent it to someone. And the person was like, "Whoa!" And this person does tend to listen to, at least just for entertainment purposes, but is it really entertainment, right?
Right.
They listen to some of this music, right?
Mm.
And so I sent them the lyrics. I just wrote them out, texted to them the
Mm.
lyrics of one verse of this music. And they reply back like, "Don't do that ever again. Like, what are you talking about? What are you doing?" Right? I said, "That's just this." I was like, "That's just a song. Okay, that's all.
Mm.
That's all it is." And so we wanted to actually take down, like, an experiment that we could do, right? If we hear some of the,
Mhm.
even some of the younger people listen to certain things, right, and they act like they can't understand, or have a difficulty understanding when you say, "Hey, you should not listen to that music because it's foul," right? So you
Yes.
say, "Okay, give them the words to that music and say them to me." Right? Let's say as a parent or something like that, right?
Okay.
And if they have any respect
Mm.
for you as their mother or as their father, right?
Mm.
And you
Mhm.
get those words in front of them, and they're not gonna say those words. They're not gonna say those words at all, right?
Yes.
And then you can
Right.
ask them, why won't you say those words?
Mm.
Okay, and they're gonna say, well, because of some form of, it's not appropriate to be said. Okay, then why are we listening to this? Why are we even in our quiet time, in our private time, why are we having that music in our ear, for our headphones, or blasting loud and singing that music, when, again, literally words are things? It changes the crystalline structure. So then it becomes a lot of this music, a lot of these characters who are promoting, or who are put forth in front of us, a lot of these people would be considered, by the definition, degenerates.
Mm.
Okay, if this is true, and let's just say, for argument's sake, some of these people are literally the caricature of a degenerate.
Okay.
Okay, then most people, most societies overall, the type of music, well, let me put it like this: these people had to be put in front of people. Okay. So
Mm.
that means that if these people, who typically, society, any type of society that has any civility, okay, would not gravitate toward these types of thought forms
Mm.
that are being projected within these types of people. So that means that if this society normally would not do that, then how can I take over society if I wanted the society to be of a more of a degenerate nature?
Mm.
Okay. I would fund, let's say, these types of entities, right? Put them on the pedestal, put them on, give them all the money, okay? Make them the celebrity, or make them the person that seems like you should be like. Now, of course, us as adults, let's say those who our minds are working, or the awakened who are listening to this conversation, you will honestly say, "Oh, I see that for what it is. I'm not listening to that
Yeah.
at all." Of
Mhm.
course, I don't listen to it either. Of course, Dr. Kia Pruitt doesn't listen to it at all either, right?
Yeah.
But even though that's the case, it's not about you. So you already past a certain point at this point.
Right.
It's about the children whose minds are 100% easily,
Yeah.
they have yet to develop the mental fortitude, or they haven't went to a what we offer as superhuman classes. I actually teach you how to fortify your mind. Okay, they have yet to do any of that, so their minds overall are completely open, which could be a positive thing if they're getting proper thought forms, but also could be a negative thing if someone or something has evil intent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so their minds are completely open. That is who this music is for. Okay, because what ends up happening is that they listen to this music. Let's say, okay, these since we know for a fact here by this conversation that the words and the pictures and the videos they're seeing, it can change the crystalline structure of water. We know this for a fact. Okay, so if you're putting forth evil, it's changing the crystalline structure to be distorted, to be something extremely evil,
Mm-hmm.
to look at, to even want to be around. So taking this step by step here, okay, so if that's the case, and you put these, if some evil entity put forth these degenerate people in front of us, and then gave them more money than they could ever imagine to do, just to do what they're going to do, because if they're truly degenerates, they're going to do degenerate things, okay, and they're putting out these degenerate thought forms in the form of music. This music we're listening to, and that's changing our internal crystalline structure. So then when you see children who have not been abused but are gyrating with each other, who should have no knowledge of this at all, who are doing abusive acts to each other as children and as teenagers, that would eventually become adults, we can trace this back scientifically and say, huh, what kind of what changed their internal crystalline structure? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and then, of course, as adults, some adults who don't have their mindsets really in tune will then blame the children or the teenagers because of what has been weaponized against them. Okay, so overall, from this day forth, that's why I say that this will be an extremely powerful conversation
Yes.
going forth. That people here who listen should go back and listen to this over and over to really understand what's really being said. We should be extremely
Mm.
careful of what we say.
Okay.
We should be extremely careful of what we allow to be said to us. We should be extremely careful of what we listen to.
Mm.
Okay, unless you have built up the your magnetic field, okay, your fortitude,
Mm.
your energetic center, you have built it up strong enough to be able to resist what you're going to be, what's going to be hidden against it. Okay, and in my work, of course, this is what I do for a living. Okay, and this is what many of you all support the work that we do. I would say, for my professional expert opinion, that most people have not built up themselves enough to be able to resist the weaponized words, photos, and music that are
Right.
being sent at them.
Mm-mm. Can I say something else, Tony?
100%. Hmm.
Also, if we keep in mind that 90% of our behavior is controlled by the subconscious mind, we have to be careful, because you might think that you're able to combat these words, but the words go into your subconscious. And so they act themselves out and play out in your life, sometimes unbeknownst to you. Because again, your subconscious controls most of your behavior, over 90% of your behavior.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
100%. And
Mm-hmm.
so what is happening around us overall is not by happenstance. That's why here at the Meta Center we focus a lot on uh, fortifying our internal vortex, all right, of controlling our mind,
Yeah.
of of to the point where we even have a martial arts system here, okay, called the mastermind. Okay, and so I'm going to send you a photo real quick here so you can
Okay.
show on the screen. But we even created our own martial arts system, and there are two students who will be doing testing on next Wednesday, where they're going to be plunging in a tub full of ice. All right, it's going to be
Okay.
extremely cold, and they have to control themselves and not do what the body literally wants to do. It wants to cry out, it wants to scream out when something like that happens. And so, but this is all to focus the mind more than ever to like a again a mastered mind, a superhuman like state, but it's also to be able to understand that we are not the body. Okay, we are
Mm,
having this physical experience. Okay, and that is a blessing in itself. Okay, that's not a curse, that's a blessing to be able to experience what love is, to
mm,
experience the connection of friendship, to experience when together we overcome obstacles together. Okay, it brings bonds, it brings friendship, it brings a connection with each other that if we did not have this experience, we would have never been able to experience now. But because of that, though, we could also experience the opposite of that. And so I personally I give thanks for the positive, or what cannot be seen as so positive,
mm,
things that happen in my life, because it's all teaching me something. It's all allowing me to go deeper into what this reality is, and what it
mm,
means to me and how it means to those that I care for, and so on and so forth.
mm. Yeah, you mentioned something that made me think about a scripture. I know you studied under the ministry as well. And these words stay with us. And here it is in Proverbs 18:21. It says, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruits." So
Hmm.
you truly have the power. It's amazing, of life and death in your tongue. And we see that, as you mentioned, in children. When you speak to them positively, they literally blossom, they
Hmm.
glow, they smile,
Hmm.
they walk differently. But when you speak disparagingly to them, or
Hmm.
to even to each other, your companion, whatever, you can see how it causes them to feel down. So we, like you said, again, we have to be mindful of our words.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so so we have to be extremely careful
Mm,
because of this. And so the ancients, let's say, um
mhm.
they knew this.
Yes.
And in that, even in, like in the scripture verse that you just said there, that it, of course, it's levels to it, right? It's levels of
Mm,
understanding, and sometimes those scripture verses could be made in a way where it's almost like it doesn't want you to understand, because
mm,
people are trying to become better, and so they seek out these religious institutions, but then the word is kind of cryptic. Okay,
okay.
where it takes one to be at such a high level to be able to just meditate on it, meditate on it,
Mm,
to be able to really understand what it's really trying
mm,
to say. And because of that, that's actually um that's the in my research, that's the iron hand in a silk glove. Okay,
mm,
it feels soft, it feels like it's something that is it should be soft to the touch, but really it's a iron fist underneath it that's gonna damage you, because obviously people are seeking, many people are, there are people in all different types of state of mind that may
absolutely.
not be the best. And some of these people are seeking remedies to that.
Mhm,
So why in these different systems, even things are in a way a bit cryptic, unless you get to the level, like again, of a say a mid-level awakened being, and then you say,
mm,
"Oh, I know what that means." Like the scriptures, like the scripture verse you just read. Oh,
mm.
it means that we need to be careful what we say because of things like Dr. Emoto's experiments showing
Yes,
the actual changes of crystalline structure. I get it
yes,
now, 100%.
yes,
Why did it take
absolutely.
all of this to get to that point? So
Yeah, yeah. And then everybody does, they don't have the training that you and I have, when you study in the ministry, to eisegete the scripture, exegete the scripture, break down the words, study the etymology of the words, look at the
mhm,
words in context, the historical context, what was going on around the time period when they said these words. And
mhm,
so it does take some time meditating. and spending time alone to try to figure out what these texts mean and what the ancients were saying when they said things like only speak when speaking improves upon the silence. You were
Mhm,
talking about silence and how
mhm,
silence is golden, and some advanced civilizations they don't speak. Why?
mhm,
Because you're not supposed to speak unless you have something to say that will improve the trajectory of a person's life or the frequencies of the person or the energies that surround you.
mhm, mhm, mhm. 100%, right? So an example, right? So sometime, especially in my line of work, right, personally in my personal life and professionally, I know what the power of words can do, right? And I
Mhm,
know even just because of my gifts, what can help a person, right? But
mhm,
also we have to be careful because some people are not ready for that that change of their crystalline
mhm,
structure. Okay,
mhm,
so just as an example, how even one could tell this, okay, is that um, when one going back to how some people are not able to see themselves, right? They're not able to reflect, which is the in some ways like the metaphor of the vampire, right? Not able to see one's image and so forth, right?
mhm, mhm,
And so even though these people who are like that, and there's a lot of people like that, especially in the Western world, that say they want better, say this and that, but in reality, they look at themselves as perfect. All
mhm,
right. As they walk in their wake, flowers grow. You know what I'm saying? Everybody walk, roses are popping up, kind of thing, right?
yes.
And so, but in their life around them, their life, their family life, their communication is actually in shambles. Okay.
Mhm,
And so in these cases, again, this is even again, this I'm using a bit of an example of even someone I know personally, that in this case, they were told things that in a loving way. You get what I'm saying? You know, people, for
mhm,
example, know what I do. I've been doing this for decades. It is what it is, right?
mhm,
Mention that some things that would help them actually get the results that they actually want because their life is in shambles, their family structure is it's the crystalline structure, which you could look at, no, remember inwardly, but also externally. Our world around us is a reflection of the internal crystalline structure that we are emulating, right? And so their crystalline structure of their family structure is in the trash. And
mhm,
so mentioning to them that just very small change. This person doesn't have to do a lot of changes because this person is awakened to a certain state. Just hey, just little micro changes, boom, will catapult them to the next level. But instead, um, because they look at themselves as perfect,
mhm,
anything that's said other because if they have to change, then they will have to admit or they have to just do these micro configurations of themselves. That means that they're not perfect.
mhm,
Okay, they have to admit that in that process, right? And so that person got extremely violent with me. Extreme,
mhm,
just because we're not talking about I said anything, just like we're having a conversation right now. Okay. It's very, very soft, very caring. And the person got extremely violent, but I understood that violence wasn't actually toward me. It was toward themselves subconsciously because they would have to again admit to themselves that they're not this perfect being. And if they would admit to themselves they're not this perfect being, then they would have to admit that they have caused tons of headache,
mhm,
potentially hardship that
mhm.
was completely unnecessary, and it was only them who did it all because they see themselves as unfathomable. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
They see you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and typically you would know this when you are conversating with a person like that because when you are talking to a person who is, let's say, has an issue with or their crystalline structures a certain way, they will even make certain facial expressions and so on and so forth, which are
Mhm,
typically toward the evil side because their internal, their crystalline structure, okay, is the form of some of those images that we showed of the water. When we saying the water is evil or saying fool, their crystalline internal structure is of that. Okay.
wow.
And because you're saying these things, like you may be saying truth, life, and you're hitting them with these very beautiful crystalline structures, okay, it's agitating them.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
that's why you start seeing people move around, start people making crazy faces and stuff, and so on and so forth, because they're being hit with those crystalline
Mhm.
structures that are not, that they can't accept. Let's just put it like that.
Okay.
Okay. Hmm.
Wow. Let me see what someone is somebody said if you can't face yourself in the dark and be accountable, you can't grow.
But how
Yeah.
can you grow if you're perfect already? You already have grown. You're already at your final form. Okay, so
Mhm.
to admit what you just said means that I'm not at my final form, which means that I'm not perfect. And for you to say that to me, I
Mm.
may have to attack you or do something to you, or in a more subversive way. I may have to tarnish your character.
Yeah.
Okay, I may have to not let you get that promotion. Okay,
Mhm.
because because you said I'm not perfect, and how dare you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what what was his name? Dr.
Dr. Emoto.
Emoto's, um, his experimentation, it made me think about spell casting. And I always say
Mhm,
words cast
mhm,
spells, which is
mhm,
why they say spelling when they would
mhm,
have talk about vocabulary and words. So if you want to or desire to cast the spell of love, peace, joy, and prosperity in your life, all we have to do is do what you said and practice it. It might feel uncomfortable, initially, but if we practice it, then it becomes a part of our reality and we'll actually see the result of this spell casting, right? By using certain words. Is that correct?
100%, 1000%, right? And that's why we want to be very careful what is said to us. If
Yeah.
someone is saying something that is not true at all about you, about a
Mhm.
circumstance, about the reality that's around you, you have to check that. You can't allow those crystalline structures to be emanated from a person. And from that point, allow, especially if there's people in hearing distance in your environment, okay, you have to check that. Okay, this is why,
Mhm.
for example, we see some of these evil people, right, on the media, right, who supposedly have these evil plans, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so these things are emanating from them, okay? These crystalline structures, and then all these social media people pick it up, right? And
Yes.
and are repeating these evil
Yes.
crystalline structures, right?
Mhm.
And no one is checking it.
Mm.
No one is saying that, hey, no, we're not going for that. Because but guess what
Mhm.
though? If you were to, or if a person were to, I'm not going to say you or me, but if a
Okay.
person were to go outside right now in their neighborhood in a busy area, get on a pedestal, grab a megaphone, and start to say those same things
Mm.
that these evil people on the media are saying, right? Someone is immediately going to check them. Okay, whether it be the police is going to say, "Hey, we need to have a conversation." They may get arrested.
Mhm.
Someone may tackle them because this person said they're going to put things in the water. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Someone immediately is going to check that energy. So that says, huh? So
Mm.
and because you check that energy, even if the person had no really, they were just being silly, or if the person really had no wherewithal to actually go about what they're saying, okay,
Mhm.
in checking that energy, you stop that from growing or prospering or being emulated for others to hear and then repeat.
Mm.
Okay. And
Yes.
so when it comes to those positive things that, for example, you want to see in your communities and so on and so forth, you have to not only say it, put it out there, but you have to actually then it has to be repeated. Okay. Also, when it comes to those things that you see that are absolutely foul to the collective, you have to check that kind of energy, and it has to be uh, controlled or put down in some form or fashion so that it's not repeated. Okay,
Mm.
like right now, for example, we know what happened with the boat incident that happened, for example,
Yes.
in Baltimore. Okay, and now conspiracy theories, whether it be true or not, are starting to be emulated. Okay, and so from this point, all these people are picking this up and going to emulate. They're going to bring forth these crystalline structures, even if it's true
Mhm.
that most people, as I said some moments ago, that most people, in my opinion, I do this for a living, right? I
Mhm.
study this. I'm going to events all over the place. I'm talking to people, experts in their field, so that I can be the best that I can be for the supporters here.
Yes.
And so, from my expert opinion, okay, my expert knowledge in this subject, most people are not resilient enough. Their fortitude is not strong enough to resist evil or distorted
Mm.
words, photos,
Mm.
music, and so on and so forth.
Mm.
Okay. So if this is the case and everybody is emulating this kind of energy,
Yes.
it causes. So, for example, if you listen to this and if you listen to these things that I'm talking about and it causes you stress, it causes you to get lack of sleep. That
Mm.
means that you actually can't handle it.
Right.
And that's okay. If it causes you to become worried, if it causes you to have a slight headache,
Mm.
okay, these are symptoms of the fact that what you're listening to or what you are looking at in photos or videos or what you are listening to musically is causing your physical body at this point stress. So it's even past the point
Mm.
of
Yeah.
mentally not even being able to handle it. Now your physical body is emulating, okay, physical sensations
Mm.
because it has went that deep.
Mm.
Okay, so it becomes where uh, a lot of people, for what, regardless of what the reason may be, even what they say scripturally,
Mhm.
okay, a lot of people are vessels. They're Many people are empty vessels that are being filled with something. Okay,
Mm.
and so these people are walking around just emulating this, right? So those types of people in most cases never end up changing from that state. It takes those people who are awakened, who can truly understand, for example, this type of conversation that we're having,
Mhm.
to say, no, what? Yes, I'm going to change my thoughts. I'm going to speak life, not death. Okay, to myself,
Yes.
to in my environment, to those that I care for, or even those that I may not even know. Okay, and I'm not going to allow those that I care for, those who I don't even know, to speak death toward me or within my environment.
Mhm.
Okay, so like the meta center, for example, right? The meta center, like I don't even allow even people to call and to speak just again death in some form, right? If
Okay.
if there's a challenge or if there's an issue, let's correct that. Let's correct that challenge. Okay, because
Mhm.
everything has a correction point, especially if it's something minor, right?
Mhm.
But I'm going to cut that off as at a pass. In the meta center, we have when you come into the meta center, it's a very comfortable environment, right? That you kind of just want to, like, for example, sit down or lay down, just fall asleep in bliss. Okay, you just smell essential oils around and everything else. Very very Venusian in the way that we do things. Or Venusian is Venus. Okay, so very Venusian in the way we do things, beauty and comfort.
Okay.
Okay, and so I'm not going to allow someone to come in, for example, with muddy shoes on and walk
Mhm.
within walk within this environment. I'm not going to have someone come to the door and speak foul language in this environment. Outside of the door, you can do as you please, but within this environment, this is the domain of positive and life field crystalline structures.
Mhm.
Okay, we laugh, we have friendship, uh, we build in those positive things that we're doing, and I suggest the same for you all's
Mhm.
environments as well.
That made me think about something. You were talking about your environment as well as social media. And I thought about how they talk about timelines. They try to flood your timeline with certain energies so that you can bring that into your timeline or your reality. So we have to check that. We can turn it off. We can decide not to be a part of social media. Like you said, you really have to be careful what you allow into your life, into your timeline, because it will change the molecular structure of your brain, of your
Mhm,
body, of
mhm,
the air, the energy, the frequencies around you. So I always try, like you say, I always try to keep my timeline, like you keep the Meta Center, full of joy, peace, love. If somebody's coming on there using cuss words, I delete them. Like Rozelle said, cuss words, you change it to curse words. Now you're putting curses on people. Then,
mhm,
look at words, it's the same as worlds, curse worlds. The
mhm,
people in power really know what they were doing when they
mhm,
interjected certain words
mhm,
in their music and then on social media and things like
mhm.
that.
100%. 100%. And so, like, for example, in the negative tends to be, we have to be careful, right? At least at this time, the reality around us is more inverted than anything else,
Mhm.
right? And so, in an inverted reality, the negative has more weight than the
Yes.
positive. Okay.
Yes.
So, the
Yes.
negative in an inverted world. You all, in the inverted world
Mm.
or an inverted reality, it could change. It doesn't always have to be like this, but in an inverted reality, the negative has more weight than the positive. So, for example, your timeline, as we say, right, on these social media platforms may be of something that's more akin to what you want, right? But then if you were to click on something even one time that's of a
Mhm.
negative nature, all of a
Yeah,
sudden, damn near your whole timeline changes almost immediately.
that's so
Because
true.
why did it almost immediately what we're saying have experienced this? Why did my timeline I
Mhm.
click on 90% of the time, let's say 95% of the time, these things that are more akin to my nature, again, more of the positive things.
Mhm.
And I just clicked on one time this thing
Yeah.
of the adverse nature to see what it was about. And now my timeline is more flooded now with that than what I do 95% of the time.
Exactly.
Because in this reality, in the averted reality that especially is being projected outward,
Mm.
they give more weight to the negative. Okay. That's why
Right.
someone who does very foul things on camera, okay, again, we know what goes on, and I'm not going to even give it any visual play
Mhm.
here, so I'm not going to mention what those things are. You see how
Okay.
that works,
See how
right?
that
Okay,
works. Yeah.
okay. but
Yes.
but, but we could imagine, all right, and so uh those things get airplay all the time, right?
Yeah.
But yet someone who cures cancer, let's say, or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Or someone who is doing just something extremely positive within their community,
Yeah.
that stuff rarely gets any views, any shares, or so on and
Mhm.
so forth. Okay,
Mhm.
unless they align themselves with an entity or a person of the inverted nature. Then it may get more views or shares. And so
Okay.
that's the nature of the reality we're in. Okay. And so
Mhm.
it may seem like one has more power over the other. It really doesn't. Okay. That's why we have to be think about it all day, every day. Right now, the media, all day, every single day, 24/7, is bombarding
Mm.
people through music, through photo or video, and through words,
Mm.
all day, every day with inverted crystalline structures.
Okay.
Okay. It has to be like that.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Because if they stop, let's say, for example, if the system goes down, people still have those crystalline structures within them, but those negative ones have to be fed. People's natural state is to be in balance, and balance is not that.
Okay.
Okay. So what would end up happening naturally is that over a period of time, people will start to lose that. They will
Mm.
start to feel that prejudice that people have and this and that will start to naturally dissipate. So, for example, in the neighborhood that was all filled with people of different nationalities that all now stay away from each other because of something they've seen on TV. So the
Yeah.
boxes has programmed their mind. If the grid were to go down, let's say everybody's going to stay in their home
Mhm.
and stay to themselves for a moment, but eventually people are going to come outside on the porch, and then from that point they're going to come outside in their yard, and then
Yeah.
eventually people are going to come out in the street and start talking with one another,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're going to see everybody just talking, having barbecues with say with each other.
Yes.
Playing children of all nations are going to be playing with each other. That naturally happens when those negative crystalline structures are not constantly
Mm.
being put in our faces. I mean, literally constantly through those different forms of media put into our faces
Mm.
every day, all day. So that means that unless that happens all day, every day, people's natural state
Mm.
is to be human. Okay,
Right.
it's to have fun.
Yeah.
It's to challenge each other. Okay, sometimes
Yeah.
the challenging may go a little bit too far, but
Mhm.
overall to challenge each other so that we all grow. If
Mhm.
that's actually the natural state that would happen if there was a grid down, then that should tell you something.
Mm. Yeah, we experienced that in 2020.
Hmm.
Everybody was shut in, but we couldn't wait to get outside and hug each other and love each other. And now you see more, like you said, more people from different backgrounds coming together and supporting each other because we've all gone through the same thing. We realize we're all human. We all lost people during the pandemic. We all had to deal with the same reality,
Hmm.
for the
Hmm.
most part, all across the globe.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Tony, you were talking about these vibrations, um, some being positive and some being negative. And I just wanted to assert here, just for a few minutes, that one of the things a lot of people are not aware of is these entities. or beings, and some of them being human, that were in control of the world, and they are no longer now. They, have a fraction of them, but we're in control. We're sovereign, and God is in control. But they did this because when we are consistently traumatized with the music, the words, the commercials, the news, the media, all this, our social media timelines and all that, when you're consistently bombarded and traumatized, you emit a psychic energy called loosh, Loosh. And these energies, these beings or energetic beings actually ate that, or they absorbed it like food. They fed themselves off of that and made themselves enlarge off this loosh. So unbeknownst to us, we're just emitting all this trauma. We're upset, we're frustrated, not even knowing that there's another entity that's capitalizing off of that. Whether they eat it like food or they use it to their advantage by making us go to the doctor and use us what you call pharmaceutical medicines, or make us so worried we start eating because maybe you are a person when you eat when you're stressed. So they benefited from that, and so we have to be mindful to not allow that to come into our reality, and if it has to our reality, to come back.
100%. We have to be vigilant because the our enemy roams around like a lion.
Right. Right. What was that scripture? Satan is like an enemy. I can't think of it. Roaring like a lion, something like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Comes in. Oh gosh, I cannot think of the scripture. But you always make me think of scriptures when you give these words of wisdom. Just come to my mind. But yeah, our enemy is. Go
So,
ahead.
so the scripture goes is as 1 Peter 5:8 through 10 is
Okay.
your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking
Mm,
for someone to devour.
mm,
Okay, resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that your brothers throughout the world are undergoing the same kind of sufferings.
wow.
Okay, so so right now, I we can go right now to practically any nation on earth, unless it's a nation of degenerates. Okay,
Mhm.
and we can ask the people there, okay, what do you want for your life? I guarantee you, no matter who they are, for the most part, they want to be healthy. Unless something's wrong with their mind, of course
Right.
you want to be in good health. Of
Mhm.
course, you want good health and prosperity for your family. Okay, again,
Right.
unless something's wrong with your mind. Okay, so all across the world, it's the same thing. Now we may not agree on how we go about that,
Mhm.
okay, but we all want that. Okay,
Mhm.
so if 95% of people want that, if 95% of people, let's say across the world, if I were to go to them right now and say to them or ask them, how do you feel about the way the world is,
Mhm.
and most of them don't like it. Come on, 95% of people don't like it, no matter what background they're from. Okay. And
Absolutely.
again, they may not know how it can be better, but they just know that it can be. They feel it deep in their soul, right? In their
Mhm.
vortex. They feel that it can be better. They're just not necessarily sure how it can be better. Then that tells you right there that the awakened people are in the majority, are in
Mhm.
the far majority, or those who at least are more uh they're more they're not there's more people who are not inverted than inverted.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
and so it's literally just really a matter of time before uh things could potentially
Mhm.
be back on a rightful course. I just put it
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm. Brother Judah was saying, hi, Brother Judah, that their kingdom is coming to an end. The wicked people that have been in control, they were running the world, and the chaos that they create have kept us separated. So we have to know this and be cognizant of the fact that, like you said, we weren't born hating each other. We weren't born not wanting to help each other. We were born really having some of the same similar interests. We, um, to his point, it's coming to an end. And I would like to ask you, how can we push along that end? Like, what can we do?
You overall, you cannot have their world within you.
Hmm.
Okay, so Like for example, let's say I randomly say, okay, how what did you do yesterday? How did you treat people yesterday? If
Mm,
you were out and about yesterday, how did you treat people? Um, if someone, when's the last time you had a stressful situation? When's the last time somebody randomly cut in
mm,
front of you or just did something that's foolish, right?
mm,
How did you react to that? Okay. When it comes to the people that you care for, even people you don't care for, how do you speak? Because it's
yeah,
not about how we speak to really the people we care for. Because obviously, people we care for, ideally, we're going to speak in a more positive or life giving way. Okay. But how did you speak to those people you don't care for?
Ooh-wee.
Okay. So in those kind of questions, when those answers to those questions begin
Mm,
more of life than death, then a major shift is underway, and the shift is underway.
mm,
People are tired, even off
mm,
of just the what happened over the last few years. uh, that pressure, it did break some pipes, but it also created a lot of diamonds. Okay, and
oh,
those diamonds are, they see that there is a better way. Okay, they
mm,
see that, again, if we say this is a matrix, right, this space that we're in,
yeah,
uh people are seeing that there's something up here, okay, where it's not as structurally sound as it
mm,
claims to be.
okay.
Okay, the different circumstances that we go through, the things we see are there to convince us. Again, this is a bit of a deeper conversation, but it's there to convince us that it's real. It's
Mhm,
there to convince us that it's so structurally sound that its foundations cannot be shaken.
mhm,
Okay, but the reality of it is, it's not as structurally sound
mhm,
as it gives off. Okay, and again, the Matrix movie uh was, or the series itself, especially the first one, was overall showing this, that it's not as structurally sound as it seems. Uh, some rules can be bent, and
mm,
others can be completely broken.
mm,
But one has to come to the realization of this truth within themselves,
absolutely.
and then from that point, they can operate with outwardly in the reality around us a certain way. So when they go into these environments or they see things a certain way, just around them, they can say, "No, it doesn't have to be this way at all." Okay,
Mhm.
and even though they're going to get resistance, that's part of the game to give you resistance. Okay, the things that we do here are not meant to be not challenged. Okay,
Mm,
if people are, again, just like I gave the example of a person speaking foul evils out in public and how it will be challenged. Okay, but
mm,
also if we're doing something positive, there's going to be an inverted being there somewhere around sooner or later to try to
mhm,
challenge you. Okay, because that's their nature to do that. Okay, they're inverted, they have to do that. Okay,
mm,
so in this reality around us, that doesn't mean your life would be harmed or anything like that, but someone, when you propose, some of you all are brilliant, many of you all are brilliant in how you are, and you could easily see the eos, but also the how certain realities around us could be easily changed, even if it's like the running of cities and stuff like that, right? And the
mm,
moment you propose a very easy, simple idea, you're going to have an inverted being come up and say that can't work, and try to give all these reasons
mhm,
why it can't work, but yet they
mhm.
do things that obviously do not work, right? Okay, that's their purpose. Their purpose is to
Mm,
do that.
mm,
And so we have to truly, as awakened beings, understand that, okay, that you're not you're going to be challenged. Okay, so just
mhm,
understand, you're gonna, yeah, I get you don't want to be challenged. Okay, I get it, you want everybody to hold hands and be kumbaya. I get it, but that's not the matrix that actually
mhm,
we're all collectively in. It is to, if you really want something to happen, then it's going to bring challenges to test your fortitude in
mhm.
trying to bring that to be.
Absolutely. I wanted to know if I could do just a quick activity with you, just a second, a few seconds. And that is, okay, you said somebody said something like, I can't, that can't work. Say somebody says something like that can't work, or let me use another one. I can't afford, I can't afford this life right now. How can you change that positively? Like, what can you do to change your words? You know?
So instead of saying like I can't afford that,
Yes.
I would say more so, let me find a way to afford it. Let me find a way to bring that about. Okay. Um, of course, the word these days they use like to use manifest, right? And say,
Yeah.
okay, this is what things are trying to try to show to be here. Let me use my creative mind. Okay,
Mm.
giving yourself a positive affirmation, right?
Okay.
And let me
Okay.
let me let me use my creative mind to find the resources that I need. Okay,
Mm. Okay.
and but
Ooh, I
again,
like.
it's not just about using those words, though. It's about actually saying, okay, you actually start going on the internet or looking in your local paper or going out and about to actually bring that about. But because if you stay in that positive mindset,
Mhm.
and because if you stay in that positive mindset, you will bring that about.
Mm.
Okay, versus of staying in that mindset of lack.
Mm. I see.
Mhm,
Thank you. Okay, one more.
mhm,
um, it's too hard to get along with people who don't think like me. It's just it's too hard. Because of them, my life is so bad, or something like that. It's too hard to get along with these people.
mhm. Uh, Let me find what I have in common with these people because as humans we all
Oh,
have the same desires, right?
I
And
know.
so let me find what our common ground actually is. And that's why, some of you know, some of you don't know, but I am a mediator and I have been hired to mediate between couples. Yeah, that's the main thing that's on the website, is being couples, but I do corporate mediation and
Okay.
mediation in people, gangs and things of that nature,
Mm,
that have, I have been brought in to have certain types of conversation because they know I'm neutral. I have no vested interest in one way or another. I just want people to be balanced. Okay. And
okay.
so people have utilized my skill set for those purposes. But
Mm,
um, because in that case, again, going back to what you just said there, because we know that as humans, we all have desires. We might not agree what those desires are, but we all have certain desires and so on and so forth. And so it becomes where one then tries to find that commonality between us, okay,
mm,
versus those things
mm,
that tend to be different. So let me give you another example of what you said. Let's go even a bit further than that.
okay.
Because we are a bit in an inverted reality, how we know this is that people go to the negative before they go to the positive. So what I mean by this is that I would say, let's say, uh, and this is an actual example of something that has actually happened. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
I was amongst a group of people who feel very proud of themselves,
Mm,
egotistically, because of their accolades in life. Okay, I mean,
okay.
extremely proud. They love to flutter in front of people and so on and so forth. Right,
Okay.
and in this, in this conversation that took place, them expressing how wonderful they are, um, they it came to, because they phrase themselves as the one who could speak wonderful and how great they are because they speak it, but yet someone could also say that, let's say, who does not have any of those accolades at all. Okay, so let's say a person who is homeless on the street can say 1 plus 1 is 2.
Mhm.
Is it true or not? Right. And so in this example that happened, in that example, giving something like that, like, okay, they're saying 1 plus 1 is 2, and everybody agrees, yes, gives them clap. 1 plus 1 is 2, yes.
Mhm.
But then saying that homeless person over there, who they look at as despicable, they look at as so
Mhm.
beneath them, also said 1 plus 1 is 2. Is it
Mm,
true?
yeah.
What's very odd is that in that circumstance, majority of them, let's say if it was 10 people, 8 of those people had to think about it for a moment and lean more toward no. But even though they said, of course it is, eventually, why did you have to think about it for?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2. Why does it matter who said it? So in many circumstances, you'd be
Mm,
surprised that because in the inversion, people would go to the negative or lean more to the negative before logic kicks in,
mhm.
and then they may go back to the positive or to the thing they should say. Okay, and that's because of the inverted reality itself. So we need to, even in ourselves, really take the time and be more thoughtful.
Yeah.
Okay, where
Mm,
we're actually, again, this goes about not speaking so much, not looking to always rebuttal, not always looking to get the last
mhm.
word.
Mm,
Okay, but instead keep our mouth closed, because majority of people need to keep their mouth closed, and instead really listen to what's being said, right?
mm,
And
mhm.
before one reacts one way or another. See, then again, these are superhuman like
Mhm.
techniques that we practice at the center and so on and so forth. That over time, it brings a person into a high state of
Mm,
being where one I was making fun of a person who came by a week and a half ago or so from out of town, and I was like, you're becoming a god amongst your people.
Mm.
Okay, where they are starting to become bent over at certain ages and stuff like that, and just looking really old. Okay, whereas you instead are becoming stronger. Your skin is becoming clearer. Your thoughts are
Awesome.
becoming
Mhm.
clearer at ages where typically you see the opposite of that,
Mhm.
and it becomes where people go, how is it that as you're aging, those things are happening, and while other people are aging, it's going the complete opposite. Maybe it's something there. Okay, again, I
Mhm.
was saying this to a person that had came because they've been a supporter of the Meta Center for probably for 10 plus years at this point.
Okay.
And we were talking about their family and so on and so forth, and just the better outcomes that we want to happen. So
Mhm. Yeah, that was great. Thank you. And the reason why I did that is because sometimes we just find ourselves, like you say, immediately going to the negative, saying what we can't do or what we don't like, or
mhm,
what, how it's so hard. I can't change because it's my genetics. I can't change because of the environment in which I grew up in, or you have to understand this is just who I am. But if we change our mind, as I hear you saying, and we actually practice coming from a different perspective, then there are things that we can do to change the trajectory of our lives.
mhm.
Thank you. Yeah. So, what else did we want to talk about, Tony? You sent me a couple of things. Did we cover all of them?
Um,
Thank you. You did the thank you.
could you show the? I think I sent you the mastermind picture. I texted to you
The mastermind picture.
so
Let
they
me.
could they could see the belt system there.
I don't know if I have that one. Did you just send it to me?
I
Did
texted.
you? Oh, you
I texted
texted to me.
yep, yep.
Oh yes, I like that. Okay, I'm gonna send it. Hold on 1 minute. I gotta send it to myself first on Gmail. And while I'm doing this, because I have to send it to my email first,
Mhm.
somebody was, I want to show you a comment. Um, Someone says that some people don't have any accountability because they lack the ability to communicate. That's why we don't get along or agree any longer. Um,
So let me make a comment on that one there. So in my line of work, right? Some types of people don't like the fact that I don't get into feelings. So when I do
mhm,
couples mediation,
mhm,
uh, I start off even partly by saying that we're going to deal with what has taken place, okay?
okay.
And typically one or both uh, will want to talk about feelings, okay?
Mm,
How they feel a certain way, right? And I don't allow that. And the reason why I don't allow that is because
mm,
we would never agree on anything with feelings. If people have if person A feels a certain way and a person B feels the opposite way, and this is
mhm,
their feelings, and their feelings necessarily do not match reality. Okay, it
yeah,
could, but in many cases it doesn't. Okay,
mhm,
and so because of that, if that is actually the case, we will never get to a reasonable solution to what's taking place that's causing this mediation to take place in the first place. Okay, so I
mm,
start with actual events that have actually taken place that they could agree on. Okay,
okay,
this has actually happened, but eventually it does break off into the feelings. Okay,
mm,
and then
mm,
we could then at that point we can explore why one feels how they feel when we all agreed on the circumstance of events that led
mm,
to the circumstance in the first place. Okay, so
okay.
and in majority of time when we go that route, let's say out of 10 couples, 9 of them end up finding a solution. Okay,
Mm,
that is beneficial to both, and that leads to uh loving outcomes. Let's just put it like that. Okay. And
beautiful.
in that one chance, in that one time it does not work, is because they want to keep talking about feelings. Okay.
Mm,
And
mm,
so we are in a time where, and this is also the time we're in, which the many holy books talk about a time like this, where feelings overrule logic. Okay. So now a reality shouldn't be too logical, because that could lead to totalitarian types of energy, which that's what we see today. Okay, in some regards, too logical. Okay, but in other regards, it shouldn't be too much about feelings either, because
Mhm.
when it's like that, it can lead to also totalitarian behavior. Okay, because it's not about necessarily what one is seeing about what's going on. It's about how I feel about whatever it is I feel. Okay, and
Mhm.
so we're seeing a lot of that take place around us, and that's why we see a overabundance of people who cannot be criticized, even
Yes.
constructively criticized. Okay,
Yes. Yes.
we see that in mass. Again, I'm not going to say certain specifics, but we see that in
We
mass.
do.
Okay,
We do.
and we see that because of that, when that's out of control, we get the whole Babylon kind of energy, which talks about
Mm.
which this talked about biblically. Okay, that kind of energy comes about when feelings get out of control. Okay,
Mhm.
and it's not a stop to it. So, um, again, the reality, the matrix is very interesting, and if we look at it in a way as a construct, okay, that we're in, that's made to be real for a variety of reasons, okay,
Mhm.
but it's
Mhm.
also it is real for those variety of reasons, but at the same time, it can be whatever it is that you want it to be. Then in studying that from that angle, you'll be surprised what thought forms come out of you that you may not have thought of previously.
Mm. Wow. Wow, that was powerful. This speaker, because especially from a woman's perspective, we like this. I like to say, and in women's groups, you hear what I feel like, and I feel, and that's important. But sometimes we have to put the feelings in check, and let's deal with the situation, the reality of the situation, because feelings and emotions change, right? So I appreciate you saying that. And like you said, a lot of people can't be criticized. And I had this conversation today where somebody was telling me that I shouldn't talk about training a child in the way that he should go. And the person was saying, don't use the word train because animals are trained. And if you talk to adults about training, it's going to turn them off. And we don't want to hear the word train. We want to hear the word teach because
Hmm.
it makes me feel like you're. And I was like, I can't really, I shouldn't say I can't. I'm not really concerned about how the word train makes you feel because the etymology of the word train actually means to shape or form and instruct, to teach. So, you know,
Hmm.
but he didn't want me to use the word because it made him feel a certain way. And I'm like, why does the word matter? I'm in shaping you, I'm instructing you, I'm helping you. I'm supposed to be, I'm giving you the truth of what can help your situation. But that's just to your point now. We so focus on what makes us feel right that
Hmm.
we have a hard time looking at the reality of the situation and receiving wisdom,
Hmm.
sound
Hmm.
wisdom and criticism.
Hmm.
Thank you so much. I had no idea that you actually were a mediator on top of all the other things that you do. Now, do you offer that service to the audience, or is it just for like, people in Chicago, or can our audience tap onto you for that service?
Yeah, a couples mediation has been up there for some years now, so
Okay.
they can book that if they choose to. The more corporate and other kinds of mediation, they have to contact for that, but it has been
Okay.
under the appointments for some time. So
Okay.
what you have put on the screen there is the mastermind. So this is the belt system that we have. This is came about from our superhuman classes that were going on for almost 10 years,
Mm,
and in this system, it is each one of those belts has a challenge. Okay. Some of those
okay.
challenges are more so just the introductory to certain types of information that help to refine the mind, while other challenges are actual physical in nature, where one actually has to physically go about something. So
Mm,
for next week, the two students they are trying to achieve their rank number 3, which is the blue stripes. And
mm,
so, and again, that's the code challenge and so on and so forth. And it's not just
okay.
about the code challenge itself, it's about the mastery of focus in the mind, of limited expression, because you are truly controlling yourselves and going within. Okay.
Mm,
And so if they don't do that, if they're unable to do that, then they have not passed to be able to acquire that belt. And so each belt again has some form of challenge or exposure to information that helps to refine, and some of this information is just information about oneself. Okay, so it's over a course of time. For this, a lot of people, we have supporters all over the world. There are some who have been supporters for many years who want to do this from afar, but
Mm.
I'm still trying to formulate how that would work because we do this training literally every Wednesday. So every Wednesday here at the Meta Center, we are training in the mastermind activity. So it's really not meant to be virtually, and so I'm trying to
Okay.
still kind of figure that out at this time.
Okay.
But uh, we do this, and you're gonna see you all gonna see videos of them going through their challenge
Mm.
sometime after it happens on next Wednesday.
Okay. And what's the overall goal again?
Again, the overall it's for a person to become that superhuman version of themselves overall in the mastery of their mind.
Mm.
Okay. For
Okay.
some people have different kind of goals in mind. For some people, it's more leadership focus. For other people, like we have some executives that have been inquiring about it and stuff like that. But for
Mm.
other people, overall, again, it's just the mastery of the mind itself. How a person utilizes that, that's on them.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
So mhm.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other upcoming events you have scheduled, Tony? You would like for us to mention?
Uh, as of now, the main event, we do have a superhuman class that is happening in August. Okay, that's
Okay.
August 9th and 10th of 2024.
Okay.
It has deadlines and prerequisites. So the cost is $400. The initial deposit is due by April 30th. And I'm
Okay.
very strict on that. So if you miss it, then that's unfortunate. And then from that point, by June 30th,
I try not to crack up when you say that. That's
oh,
okay.
so by June 30th, the um, the balance, but also the prerequisite has to be had. And the prerequisite is that you have to volunteer somewhere for one day. Okay, so for
Mhm.
one day, I don't care if it's a soup kitchen, a homeless shelter,
Mhm.
but if it's something a little bit different than that, I would ask to be known first so that you can be utilized for that. But
Okay.
they have to do a prerequisite. I have to have proof of that, and that will allow them to come to the event. So let's say they paid, for example. This is how serious we are about the humanitarian efforts that we do. Is that
Mhm.
let's say they paid the $400, but they did not do the prerequisite. Well, that's going to be forfeited. It's going to be given back to you, refunded back to you. Okay,
All
you're not going to be able to come to the class.
all
Okay,
right. All
it's
right.
that important.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So I'm just going to share the screen just so people can see your site one more time. Um, Here, this is the Meta Center. You can find Tony at the metacenterchicago.com. He has a lot of things going on here. You have the brain mapping session here.
Hmm.
Let's see. I thought it was going to slide. Okay. Ceremony, cacao. Is this a ceremony you do at the
Yeah.
center
Oh, no, the ceremonial grade cacao. That's the
okay.
cacao that I sent you.
that you sent
Okay.
me? Okay.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. Okay, just a little bit about how you help people. You feed the homeless in your
Hmm.
area, right? You
Hmm.
cook, serve the people. You also do some day trips, yes, in your
Uh,
area.
well, these are adventures that those were multiple. Those were like week and a half trips that we took again across the.
Oh,
We do them practically every year, once, sometime twice a year,
okay.
where we go to popular and also not so popular destinations to for whatever the purpose is at that time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Didn't you say you have mounds there in Chicago too that you visited?
yeah. No, they were mounds about 3.5 or so hours away. Cahokia is one of the more famous mound systems
Okay.
that is here. That's near Chicago. Anyway, it's closer to St. Louis, right
Mm.
outside St. Louis. But yeah. Hmm.
Okay. You have help, let's see. Oh, for prostate cancer, which is that's a real big issue right now within males and specifically in African American males. I know my brother's in the medical industry and he was telling me that that's become almost like an epidemic these
Yes.
couple years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you have products that can address those?
Well, we do research. We're doing an ongoing study concerning
Okay.
the prostate. So men who have prostate related challenges, they call in. We go through some questions and things and concerns
Mhm.
they have, and so on and so forth, and it's put into our large database. For me, as I'm still doing research to find uh, why it's happening here more than
Mhm.
anywhere else, just overall to all men, but why specifically so-called African American men,
Yeah.
why is it even more so even happening to them? And
Mhm.
it is targeted. It's not happenstance. It's not just it's not some type of bodily defect.
Mhm.
A lot of it deals with most of it deals with diet, and
Mhm.
some of it deals with lifestyle.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Hmm.
Let's see. Okay, there's some more of your trips.
Hmm.
You have articles also that you publish.
Yep, articles on the website that deal with all different types of subjects, from health, wellness, to spirituality, to some of the travels we do, and everything else.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. And so you also, we've talked about how you have different herbs on the
Hmm.
site people can order. Make sure if you order family, you use the code, the discount code at the checkout, DRKIA 2024. That's Dr. Kia 2024. Tony, I really wanted you to, you might only just have a few minutes left, but to speak on what this is, because you talked to me about it yesterday.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so April 8th is a major celestial event. Of course, it's the eclipse, and on this event, it's a little bit interesting. Even biblically, it is stated that use pretty much the heavens as
Wow.
the um, for your signs and wonders. Let's put it like that. You use it pretty much. It's almost like it's a celestial clock. The ongoings in the earthly plane or dimension,
Hmm.
those can be manipulated and so on and so forth. And that's
Okay.
why those ancients said use the sky instead
Mm,
for direction and so on and so forth, because it's controlled by higher dimensions. Okay.
mm,
That cannot be so easily manipulated by those on the ground.
mm.
Okay.
Okay.
So with that, it's a major event, and it's passing through. This is the what you're seeing on the screen there is the path going from with the line there. That's the path of this year's eclipse.
Mm.
And what's very interesting about that is that, as you see there, is passing cities with some biblical names, which is or
Yes.
biblical references, which is very strange and unusual.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so with that though, there's certain areas of this, like right now, because of this article, a lot of social media people are now starting to talk about it. But of course, they come from the fear angle. They always are coming from the fear angle. Like if you all know, remember, even last month on March 11th or something like that, it was supposed to have been some major fear event, and everything's supposed to have been shut down, okay, and stuff like that. And so this pretty much happens practically every single month, and it's been happening
Mm.
overall since the year 2000. But it went into overdrive since 2012.
Okay.
Okay, that almost every month is some major thing. Like first it was Nibiru for years and years on end.
Mhm. Mhm.
Every month, Nibiru, the planet of the crossing, you can't see it, but it's about to destroy everybody, and so on and so forth, right? So with that being said and done, this one is a bit more of significance though, to astrologers, including myself, just because again, uh, this is the heavens saying certain things, right? But not only that, it's going through cities with these biblical references that were
Mm.
pre-planned. That had to be pre-planned well
Mm.
some time ago. So if we were to look into
Wow.
when those cities were incorporated, okay, we could see how long ago it was actually pre-planned. Okay.
Mm.
And so why was it pre-planned? And supposedly at the same time it's going to be a comet that's called like the devil or something. Let me look this up. It's a comet
Mm.
at the same time that's happening.
Okay.
One moment. Solar eclipse comet. The comet is called the Devil Comet. Okay,
Wow.
okay. So so they say that during this time when everything, especially in the middle America, goes completely dark, you'll be seeing Jupiter. You'll be seeing supposedly Venus with the naked eye super clear, but also you'll be seeing this supposedly this devil comet.
Mm.
Okay. And so at the very least, it's not that okay. Many times, as we see through all the face and false warnings that people have given, okay, nothing happens at all. But it's not that nothing would truly happen, because in many cases it's not. It's that you have people who believe something should happen, and
Mm.
and they act out a certain way.
Okay.
And so more so than anything else, I would just say, uh, be relaxed,
Mm.
okay? Because in your relaxed mind, thoughts are processed more efficiently. It's the turtle in the hare analogy with that.
Okay.
But also that just pay attention to people,
Mm.
okay? And watch how people are more than anything else. So,
Why do you mention that the Nineveh?
mhm,
You highlight Nineveh. I never knew that Nineveh is from the story of Jonah. I do know that,
yes.
but I never knew that there were so many. cities named Nineveh. Why is that
Hmm.
important? And then
Well,
let's go to.
if you click on that image there, it's going to take you to the article
Oh,
itself.
oh, okay.
And many of you
Oh,
should okay,
okay.
scroll down there, and you're going to see in red there, and it's going to be another one in red as well. That's going to be if you scroll down a little bit more there,
Okay.
yeah. So if you read those two in red there, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to give some insight into the importance of Jonah and Nineveh and so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth, along with the overall article's theme itself.
Okay.
So let me, you can read it or I can. It's up to you.
What would you prefer, dear?
You read it.
Okay. Which one? The first one, Jonah 1 and 2, or the second one?
Uh, First one and then go to the second.
Okay. Jonah, the first chapter, verses 1 and 2. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up to before me.
And so some of that deals with, in some cases, America itself and the way America is. Again, this is purposeful, okay,
Mm,
and
mm,
and it's by design, okay. And
okay.
so for this celestial event to take place at this time, the way it's taking place for it to bypass these cities that have been laid out in that path purposely. Okay, again, everything's by design. There's nothing here in this reality at all that's happenstance, because the reality itself is a matrix. Okay,
Mhm,
it's not as real as people think it is. So because of that,
mm,
that's partly how you know it's all, everything that happens around us has been orchestrated to happen around us a certain way.
mm.
And the only thing we can really do overall is lead certain paths that of within this structure that has happened. And so could you read the second one, please?
Yes. Jonah, the third chapter, verses 3 through 5, and verse 10. Jonah obeyed the word of the Lord and went to Nineveh. Now, Nineveh was a very large city. It took 3 days to go through it. Jonah began by going a day's journey into the city, proclaiming, 40 more days and Nineveh will be overthrown. The Ninevites believed God. They declared a fast, and all of them, from the greatest to the least, put on sackcloth. When God saw what they did and how they turned from their evil ways, he relented and did not bring on them the destruction that he had threatened.
And so some of that deals with, and this is what gets into the whole cryptic, because the Bible is it's encoded
Mm,
purposely, and this is beyond just needing wisdom to read it. Okay, it's literally
mm,
encoded that only the scribe class knows the key to uncode to know its true meaning. Okay, so everybody who's reading it, if you don't have the key to literally unlock it to tell you its true meaning, then all
mm,
of us, let's just say, are just going off of whatever that more forefront interpretation of it is. Okay.
mm,
So with that, in this itself also deals with the celestial path. Okay, because
mm,
even though what we see in the sky happens during that time, and we seeing uh the effect after it happens, it takes time for it to build up into that place. Okay, it doesn't just instantly happen and then go away. It's a time period for it to get into that position, and then it's a time period for it to get out of that position. Many astrologers, including myself, allude to that's what that is overall talking about, but at the same
okay,
time, also a reflection as above, so below, what
mm,
has happened, what needs to happen within us as well.
mm.
Okay, so
I love that you have a call to action here. Thank you. Excuse me for cutting you off. I love.
mhm, yep. So
Can I read that right quick?
sure.
The eclipse is call to action. The solar eclipse's raw energy is a call to action, a summons to embrace the chaos within and around us, to find our power, not despite the darkness, but because of it. It's a primal scream from the universe, urging us to break free from the chains of convention, question, rebel or rebel, and redefine what it means to be alive. In the darkness of the eclipse, we are all raw potential, standing on the precipice of creation, destruction, and the infinite possibilities that lie in between. Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, I'll put that link in the chat box for you all to see that. So when you go to the website, you can look more closely into the eclipse. Somebody wants to know. They said they can't capture the articles on the site and save or print them. They want it because Elaine wants to study offline. Is there a way they can do that, Tony?
Yeah, we kind of blocked that for now just due to people kind of taking information and kind of then corrupting it, distorting it.
Mm, okay.
Okay. And so it's been an issue over time that we see. And
Mm,
so we may allow it to be emailed or stuff like that. So I thank you for saying that, and I
mm.
will consider it.
Okay. All right, Brother Tony. Anything else you want to say? I know we're at 1 hour 34 minutes. I know you're probably very busy. Anything else you want to leave with us before you go?
I would say more than anything else, this was an extremely powerful conversation that we've had here.
Yes.
Um, and I would say to you all, please rewind it, go back and really internalize the power of words, the
Mm,
power of seeing things visually, the
mm,
power of what you listen to, and and ideally do better. Okay,
mm,
do better,
mm,
because those are we don't have to listen to some of this stuff that is taking place. We don't have to. We could turn it off. We don't have to. Again, I'm not going to say names, but we don't have to
mhm,
listen to some of this extremely degenerate music
mm,
that is here. That's an option. Okay, and if one tells me that they don't have the option to not listen to it, then now I want to study them to see who is in them or what is operating that
mm.
makes them feel that they can't not turn that on. Okay,
Absolutely.
but with that, we are very powerful beings,
Yes.
and this is the reason for the orchestrated effort to send these negative energies or crystalline structures toward us all day every single
Mm,
day. Okay, it would
mm,
not happen that way if what you are, okay, if that soul that's within you wasn't so valuable.
mm.
Okay, so I would just say everyone, take the time just to meditate on that,
Yes.
and I'm sure it will lead to better days.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. And if they want to get in contact with you, where else can they reach you? I know we can reach you at the metacenterchicago.com. We can contact you for, oh,
Yes.
that's
So,
your video? That was your video playing in the background. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yep. So the website is one. Again, we located right outside of Chicago itself. They could come on by. We have events, weekly events, even meditations and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Phone call away, 708 um 668 4909 708 668 4909. Of course, you can click the contact us on the website as well, send us an email. So we're here, we're easily to find. You can easily contact us and so on and so forth. We appreciate all you all support, because your support allows us to do the research that we're doing, which allows people to get the not only upgrade themselves. Some people come here who are life is going perfectly fine, who just want to become that superhuman version, but other
Mhm.
people come because they actually need help. Okay,
Yes.
and we're here doing just that.
Absolutely. And can you speak briefly about your YouTube channel? Because I know you do some uploads where you look at the metaphysics behind current events as well.
Yes. So our YouTube channel, typically we put things on there that again, news, metaphysics, sometimes a lot of testimonials from people who do come through. It's full of testimonials from people from all over. We put sometimes videos of our adventures that we do go on and so forth as well. And so we do at least sometime at least twice a week. I like to put up a news kind of where I'm giving the metaphysics or the behind spiritual thinking was taking place of what we're seeing in the news, and those are
Mhm.
called the transmission. So it's geopolitical,
Mhm.
uh, and of course it's full. We've got hundreds of videos up there for myself, and of
Mhm.
course Dr. Deborah Blair as well, that
Mhm.
you can enjoy.
All right. All right, Dr. Tony Vortex. And if somebody wants to order products from the Meta Center, you can call him again at 708-668-4909. I'll put that in the chat. Let me see. Also, you can go to the website, and when you order, make sure once you go to the end of the order, what do you call it? The what's the end of the order called?
The cart page.
The cart page. Yes.
Mhm.
Then you can put in the discount code Dr. Kia 2024, and that's right here below in the ticker right here. So let me put your number 708-668-4909. And one thing I want to say before you close us out in a prayer or meditation, Tony, is something that I learned in as a minister that we were told to say, and that is, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. In the name of, whoever your God or the Messiah. Amen. And the reason why we say that is because you want your words and the things that you meditate upon be something that God would be pleased with, source would be pleased with. Because if source would be pleased with your words and with the things upon which you meditate, then you'll be okay. Whatever you meditate upon is what comes out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So be mindful of what you meditate upon. Over to you for final words and
All right,
prayer.
everyone. Okay, so let's just as we did previous time before, let's take our right hand, let's put it over our heart. Let's take our left hand and let's put it over our forehead, third eye area. Okay, and let's just take the time to breathe in deeply. Inhale through the nose, hold it, exhale through the mouth, repeat. Inhale through the nose, hold, exhale through the mouth. One more time. And lastly, a positive affirmation. We have the power to be all that we claim to be.
Mm. We have the power to be all that we claim to be. Somebody said thank you. It's a very powerful discussion, Tony. Uh, a person would like to send you an offering. Can you give us your cash app?
Yes, Cash App is money sign META 2020.
Okay. So, for those who ask about blessing Tony Vortex, Dr. Tony Vortex, you can send him a gift offering to Cash App of $Meta 2020. Also, when you go to order products, I'm sure he'll give you the details on how instructions on how to pay. So, thank you so much, Dr. Tony Vortex. You are a wealth of knowledge and information for us. You are our resident metaphysician, healer, shaman, therapist, counselor, and herbalist, scientist, and engineer and minister. So we appreciate you very much.
Appreciate all of you all as well. And thank you very much. And until the next time we speak, take care.
So goodbye, family. Thank you for joining us. We hope we said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go out and make this a great day. We love you. Bye bye.
Take care.
Take care.